Hey, I'm John Barker, and in this episode of Here to Record Show and Tell, we're taking a look at the Lilliput A7S 4K Camera Assist. This is pretty much what I just said, a little 4 or 7-inch monitor, 4K capable, and you can just pop it on top of your camera and use it as a camera assist, or you can use it as a HDMI monitor for pretty much anything you need it for. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the video about what I use it for. But first of all, I wanted to just talk about the fact that Lilliput has sent this to me and to the channel to review and take a look at. I'm going to let us hang on to it after the review's done as well, but they haven't paid for this video. They're not watching this video before I post it, and all the opinions you're going to hear are mine, and they're not editing the video before I post it out for you to watch. So with that said, let's just take a look around the little screen. So looking around the monitor, you can see the 7-inch screen at the front there. It is a 7-inch IPS display, 1920 by 1200, but it's capable of displaying 4K content. It'll just be, down res to the HD version, and it's an 8-bit display. Take a look around the outside. You'll see this nice red sort of cover. That is just a cover on there. It can be fully removed, and you can just take it off if you don't want it, if you want to go a little more streamlined. Personally, I think it looks a bit cooler with the red cover on there. It makes it look a bit more interesting instead of just a sort of, I don't want to say boring, but normal monitor. Here you can see a little peek of it with it off. I mean, that's perfectly fine too. If you don't have the space, or you don't want to have that big cover on there, you can just take it off and use it like that instead. I'll just put it back on again. On this side here, you have sort of your main ports. You have a DC power port. That's what I use to power the device. HDMI in and out right here, so you can loop through your camera signal, send it off somewhere else if you want. And you also have like a little earphone port there as well, which is nice. On the top, something to connect pretty much any device you want to, a little tripod mounting hole there. And on the top is all the main controls for the monitor. So you have power over here on the side, function buttons 1 and 2, an exit button, and then you have this little scrolly wheel for using the menu, and it's also a button that you press in to make changes, to access the menu and all that stuff. On this side, there's nothing. On the bottom, there's one more tripod mounting option, and then on the back you have a little battery plate, which is cool for powering it via battery. That's not really something I'll do, but you can do it that way. You also have a little other battery option as well that comes with the monitor. A few other things that come with it: full-size HDMI to mini HDMI little cable, which is nice. You also have this little ball head style shoe mount for mounting it to the top of a camera, or to, well, yeah, probably a camera or whatever devices you have. And then finally, this comes with it as well, like a little sun hood, so you can use this to see what you're doing when you're out in some bright light, which makes it great to keep that red cover on, because then you can actually attach this little sun hood and see what you're doing if you're out shooting in the sun. One of the first things that I was a little bit confused about with this monitor is the naming. It's called the A7S, which is the same as the Sony A7S cameras, and you don't need to be fooled by that. It is just a HDMI monitor, really. The naming might make you think that it's just for Sony cameras, or just for that particular Sony camera as well, but it's certainly not. You can use this with anything. Use it with a camera, or use it like I do, which is not used it on top of a camera, but I actually put it beside my production switcher, and I use it as a nice little 7-inch monitor. I usually have a little 5-inch Blackmagic Video Assist beside my ATEM live switcher, and I use that to do like a backup recording, but also to see what the program output of my switcher is. And in this case, I just bring this along as well, and I can use this as a 7-inch monitor, much clearer, easier to see if you're in focus, and it's good if I'm going to shoot something outside with a sun hood. So that nice big monitor is what I use it for. I also use it with my GH5 as well, as sort of an external monitor, but in the case for this video and for this channel, it can also be used with a on-the-road setup, where you want to live stream, or you want to live edit, and you want a nice little monitor to go along with your setup. You can buy this little cheap monitor, and it'll work nicely with that. I'm just going to power up the device, and then I can talk through some of the pros and some of the cons, I would say, about getting this. I'm also going to plug in my GH5 just as a little reference image so you can see something in action. I'll turn that on over there. And it's found that 4K signal. It's 4069 signal that's coming in there, but it's displaying it nicely on the screen. Just focus that up. And yeah, so in terms of the pros, I'm just going to show you this while I chat through them. You have some nice options in the menu, which will let you turn on, let's see, down here in the settings here, I can turn on some peaking options, so I can see what's actually in focus. I can also change a bunch of settings for that. I can set this exposure dials, and then I just use this little dial to, change the settings. I can also turn on a histogram as well if I want it on there. It's a little fiddly to use this menu, but you get the point there. So there is a bunch of options in the menu there. You also have some audio meters that you can turn on and off, and grids and guides and all that cool stuff. So that's one of the definite pros about this, but a lot of these monitors have those kind of features as well. It's just nice to see that they are included in an inexpensive monitor. Like I said, at the top you have these function buttons, function 1 and 2, and they can be assigned to pretty much anything you want within the menus. In my case, I have function 2 set up to turn on that little histogram at the bottom corner there, so I can just quickly flick it on, flick it off. And function 1, I don't think I have that set up right now, but I could turn that on for audio meters or whatever the case may be. So that's definitely one of the best things. And another really good pro about it is it's just super light. I was really surprised by how light it is. I think 320 grams is what it says on the document that comes with it. It's crazy light, so it's just simple to throw in my bag. It doesn't really add much to my setup that I'm carrying around. That's nice to have a nice light thing to pop in the bag. In terms of the downsides of this monitor, I mean, it is an inexpensive monitor, so it's going to come with some drawbacks. One of them is definitely the buttons. This little jog wheel, it goes up and down and you press it in, but as I'm doing right now, you probably can't quite see it there, but it's actually stuck. I can't turn it until I really force it, which is quite annoying part. Stuck again, there we go. Whenever you're wanting to make fine adjustments, say you want to take the brightness down a little bit, you went too far, you want to bump it back a little, and the button gets stuck, so you have to really press through. So you can expect to have sort of inexpensive components in an inexpensive monitor, and that may be what you get here. This could be a particularly bad jog wheel that I have on my personal unit, but when it comes to inexpensive devices, you can probably expect to see a few little quirks like that sometimes. Another con for my particular setup was that no power cable was provided. I mean, it seems fair enough. They probably assume that you're going to use the battery plates and batteries that you have because you might want to mount this on top of your camera. So that's kind of fair that it's not in there, but in my setup and with monitors that I like to buy, it often comes with a power supply because I'm using it in a sort of live editing conference environment where I want it to be plugged in all times. I don't want to be changing batteries. So not coming with a power cable, it is a fairly standard power connection, yes, but I don't really have many of these lying around. I've stolen this from a different device I have, so I can't use the two at the same time until I go buy another power cable. So that's one sort of downside, I would say. Some more expensive monitors come with not only a power cable, but connections for a bunch of different countries. So it would probably be nice to see that in there, but it might just be for my particular setup that it really mattered for. And the final con that I found was this little ball head that came with it. Ball head slash shoe mount. Whenever you have the rubber cover on here, it just seems really hard to actually tighten these things up and make sure that's loose, or sorry, tightened, and then make sure all this is tightened and then put that on your camera. It just didn't really work well for me. I would immediately replace this. So while it does come with this little ball head thing, I would put that aside and buy a better version immediately because it just doesn't really seem to tighten no matter how hard you try. So it's not really the best little component to come with it. But I don't think that really turns me off the monitor as a whole. It's got a nice display. You probably need to calibrate it as soon as you get it just to make it look like everything else you might own already. But it works great, and its price, it's like $150 ish, maybe plus some taxes, or your local price may vary a little, but it's an inexpensive monitor, and it'll last pretty well for you. It's nice that it comes with a bunch of other extras, like this little what I like to say, like this little cool red cover to make it a little more interesting, a little sun hood, and a few bits and pieces. So overall, I think it's pretty cool for a monitor to bring with me to put on top of my GH5, because it already records great quality internally. So to have a reference monitor, 7-inch reference monitor along with it, I really like that about it. So it's a pretty good monitor. You may like it for your setup. You want to check out a link below to learn more about it, and I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.